We are here to read QJJ Live, and I have gone for about 17 minutes, so I think we can get started. We are on QJJ Volume 3, obviously, right? And we're starting at chapter 90. I actually don't know how far we're going to go. For sure, we'll more than likely read 3 chapters, unless there's a chapter in here that's like super long, which I don't think so. Their chapters usually aren't very long. So before we get started, I just want to go ahead and put out there again, we are on volume 3, chapter 90. So we don't want any spoilers, okay, of any kind, major or minor spoilers. And this is, I guess, for anyone here, obviously, but also for anyone who may come later and comment later. Just no spoilers. And if you're going to put a spoiler, please use spoiler etiquette by writing spoiler alert, and then dropping down a few lines to give people a chance, But yeah, no spoilers, big or small. Even if you think it's something that people should possibly know, even if it's something that's implied or you think we can all deduce, just don't spoil things if we haven't gotten there yet. Okay, thank you. I've got my tea in here again. I was really bad and didn't drink any tea yesterday or the day before, really. So yeah, got to get back on that. But I'm going to just move it over a tiny bit more. So also, we'll just pause like at the end of each chapter to say a word or two, maybe, if there's anything to say. And may stop in the middle if something happens that we just need to stop for. So here we go. Chapter 90, Veteran General. Okay. Heavy rain churned up the puddles at the palace entrance, where Xiao Chuye's horse had just reached the palace gates. Red silk umbrellas emerged one after the other from a line of sedans, all of them sheltering important ministers of the third rank and above. The Minister of War, Chun Jun, deliberately slowed his pace to wait for Xiao Chuye at the foot of the vermilion steps leading up to the palace hall. When he saw Xiao Chuye striding over in the rain, he began. Zhe'an, listen to me. No army in the world is invincible. A defeat is a lesson that will guide one toward future victory. Jiming has been fighting with the Biansha's Han Ma tribe for years. He's only human. That was not the... Can you say that later? Okay, whatever. Chun Jun had known Xiao Fangshu for many years. He spoke bluntly, but Xiao Chuye understood he meant well. Xiao Chuye nodded, his face devoid of expression. Together, they ascended the stairs and waited before Mingli Hall to be summoned. As the rain soaked his shoulders, even the faint light of the lanterns seemed to shrink back from him. Yes, we are in the middle of drama. I'm so sorry. Normally I would say like what happened on the last page or two of the previous chapter. So yes, we just found out the Hanma tribe was like, hey, let's cross over into their territory. Surprise attack! Ha! And yeah, Jiming is injured and the cavalry lost. Yeah. Okay. And the provisions for them have also been delayed? Okay. Yeah. And these provisions specifically were food, I believe. Yeah. Rice, wheat, and millet. So we'll see what's going on, okay? I don't like their rice, wheat, and millet being delayed. People need to eat. And, rice is carbs. Carbs are going to give them energy to fight. You got to track that grain. I'm like, what are we doing here? Because every time grain is mentioned, I'm like, there it is. Grain is so important in this series. It's so funny. But let's keep going. So that was the very, very quick recap. So, where was I? An umbrella suddenly moved overhead to shelter Xiao Chuye. Shen Zichuan had come up beside him, holding the umbrella aloft to shield him from the deluge. Standing shoulder to shoulder, the two figures in drenched red robes brought to mind a pair of wicked gods emerging from a rainy night. It's an interesting way to put that. A moment later, Fu Man lifted the curtain, made his obeisance to the court officials waiting outside, and began to summon them in one at a time. Hai Liang Yi was called first, followed by the various ministers from the Grand Secretariat, and finally, Xiao Zhiye. Not even Shen Zichuan was allowed to enter unless invited. Xiao Zhiye hung back, his gaze on Shen Zichuan laden with too many emotions. In an instant, he'd turned from a valiant, vicious hound into a lone wolf that had strayed from its pack. Oh my gosh. So stupidly important, you say? The grain. But yeah, it's clearly so important. I'm just like, do I need to start tracking my rice? My grain? That's how important it is that I feel like I need to keep track of mine. So we'll see. Next time we come on a session together, y'all might see a pantry full of grain from me. I'm just gonna like give y'all a tour, a grain tour. I'll be like, here's my jasmine rice, my basmati rice, my arborio rice, my regular white rice, brown rice, wild rice. I'm just gonna have it all. Shen Zichuan suppressed the urge to stroke Xiao Zhiye's cheek. He couldn't. Not here. They stood for what seemed a long time in the shadows of the palace walls, weighed down by shackles invisible to the eye. Xiao Jiming was severely wounded, and there were no other capable generals in Li Bei. The war was ongoing. Chudu must appoint a new general to Li Bei to take over Xiao Jiming's command. But this person couldn't be Xiao Zhiye, because he's trapped in Chudu. What is it? The stabilizing the capital. It seemed that Qi Zhuyin's remark a year ago had been prophetic. She had warned Xiao Jiming that the Li Bei armored cavalry needed a new general. Yes, she did. Too much military power was concentrated in their family's hands. If the Li Bei armored cavalry could only follow a general with the surname Xiao, then once the banner of the Xiao clan fell, the Li Bei armored cavalry would weaken, unable to sustain its former glory. The grandson heir, Xiao Xun, was only 6 years old. If Xiao Jiming was out of the equation, Xiao Zhiye was the only feasible successor to the Li Bei armored cavalry. Yet he was in Chudu, and Chudu would never release him unless the heir consort Lu Yizhi entered the capital with the young Xiao Xun to replace him as hostages. Absolutely not. No. Xiao Zhiye's willfulness had always been a bluff, and now he'd once again been plunged into a chasm with no way out. His heart howled with longing for home, but all he could do was gaze at Shen Zichuan in silence. Other than Shen Zichuan, no one else would understand. Your lordship, Fu Man prompted in a whisper. Xiao Zhiye went in. The Ministry of Revenue assigned officials to check the military provisions before they were dispatched via the Northeast Provisions Trail. If there was a problem with the provisions, why didn't the Ministry of Revenue report it then? Sun Yu was first to step forth and condemn Wei Huaigu without even taking time to pen a formal memorial. The express relay report was delayed 4 whole hours after arriving in Chudu. If we issue the order to recall the provisions now, we'll have to brave the rain and treacherous conditions on what's already a difficult route. It will take 4 days to reach Li Bei. Wei Huaigu, you're going to get people killed. Wei Huaigu said nothing. He knelt on the floor like a statue and didn't dispute a word of Tun Yu's tirade. The moment Xiao Zhiye entered, the hall fell silent. Some ministers stared at the ground, while others pressed a hand to their foreheads, stricken. The crash of the rain outside was deafening, but the suffocating heat of the hall was worse. Ci'an, Li Jianheng began, then hesitated. Take a seat. Xiao Zhiye bowed but didn't sit. This humble subject has only just dismounted and has heard no details. What's happened in Li Bei? What the hell? Has no one told the Marquis about such a serious matter? Li Jianheng flung the report to the ground below the throne. Wei Huaigu, tell him yourself. Wei Huaigu's gonna get himself in trouble. Oh my gosh. Right, his nephew is 6 and he still hasn't met him. That's so sad. So freaking sad. Wei Huaigu lowered his head, not looking at Xiao Zhiye. Something went wrong with the military provisions transported to Li Bei last month. According to the relay report from Yang Cheng, the Assistant Administration Commissioner of Jueshi, there was mold in this shipment of rice. Yet it was still distributed after arrival at Libei. Thousands of soldiers fell ill the night before the battle. Who in the hall would dare look Xiao Chiye in the eye? The Xiao clan, who guarded the nation's frontier, had rendered tremendous meritorious service 5 years ago when they came to the emperor's aid after the fall of Zhongbo. Among the Biansha tribes, the Hanma was the toughest to fight, and it was Xiao Jiming alone who defended the entirety of the northeast against their incursions. Yet, as their reward, 2 emperors and their governments had imprisoned the Xiao clan's youngest son in Chudu and let his eldest brother, who selflessly shed his sweat and blood in their defense, eat moldy and rotten grain. How would anyone have the guts to meet Xiao Chiye's gaze? Okay. The military provisions were prepared by the Provincial Administration Commission of Dressi, Xiao Chiye said without moving a muscle. If Yang Cheng knew of this, why did he wait until the provisions arrived in Libei to report it? He's the Assistant Administration Commissioner of the Southwest. I know of no grudge nor enmity he could have with Libei. Why would he risk his head to do this? The officials from the Ministry of Revenue triple-checked the provisions, and the official documents all reported new grain from last year's harvest. But now, it's turned old and moldy. These are all minor officials of low rank. So again, why would they do such a thing? The supplies arrived in Libei via the Northeast Provisions Trail, and the supervisor in charge of the granary from the Libei Armored Cavalry also had to inspect them before distributing them to the troops. For such a large shipment of moldy grain to make its way into the mouths of officers and soldiers at the frontier pass, these layers of painstaking arrangements can only be described as methodical. I agree. That's suspicious indeed. Not the throw-ups. Oh, God. When Lanzhou thinks of something chapter or 2 back, foreshadowing the yuck. Oh man, now I feel like I need to go back to read it again, which I probably will then. His voice gained more gravity with every word. The Libei Armored Cavalry has guarded the pass for 30 years. A loss on the field merits punishment. But let me say this before everyone here. A minor defeat for Libei is a blow to our Xiao clan, but a major defeat is a crisis to our Great Zhou. For several years, the Hanma tribe has been lurking on the eastern side of the Hongyan mountain range, waiting for their opportunity. 5 years ago, after defeating Zhongbo's troops, the Hanma led the men and horses of the rest of the 11 tribes to the very gates of Chudu without hesitation. It has been a mere 5 years, yet the page of the tragic massacre of the 6 prefectures of Zhongbo has somehow already been turned. We have yet to redress our nation's humiliation, and now we're going to allow one of our own to add another strike? I'm scared, y'all. It was Jiming knows his stuff outsiders shouldn't butt in. Oh, yes, right. I do remember that. Yes. Because I was like, no, butt in, say something. Well, at least I was thinking that in my head. I don't think I said that out loud. Color drained from the faces of everyone present. Xiao Chiye held nothing back. He had come tonight to raise hell. Someone was playing games with soldiers' lives, and they wanted to dismiss him with the same old bureaucratic nonsense? Not a chance. He was out for blood and would pursue this case to the end. All the rest be damned. He was done playing nice. And I agree, because what the hell are we doing? Whoever this is doing something, again, like I said in the very beginning, making stupid decisions that could hurt Great Zhou. So unless the true goal is to bring Great Zhou down for some idiotic reason, what are we doing? What are we doing? The Minister of Justice, Kong Qiu, was first to find his voice. The adulteration of military provisions can no doubt be traced to those at the bottom rung who resell grain at a profit. Many merchants with full granaries made a fortune during the famine in Zhongbo a few years back, but the laws in place nowadays are strictly enforced. I never expected officials and merchants were still colluding to commit such unconscionable crimes. Got a page turn in the middle of a sentence. We owe our generals in Libei a thorough investigation. This humble subject requests a joint trial by the 3 judicial offices, supplemented by an investigation in both Baimazhou and Chudu, to be conducted by the Embroidered Uniform Guard. We must get to the bottom of this travesty. That's not all. Another urgent matter requires our attention. The Minister of War, Chen Jun, cast a glance at Xiao Chuye. The military provisions for the 5 commanderies of Qidong also came from Bai Mazhou. We must dispatch an urgent report to Marshal Qi. This grain cannot be distributed any further. So it's also going to Qi. Bruh. Oh, okay. And how shall we make up for the shortage? Xiao Chuye's tone was icy. Those 2 shipments of provisions represent the bulk of the harvest amassed in the 3 major granaries of Dressi last year. Now you're recalling them. What will you send in their place? Where will you find the grain? If these provisions aren't replenished within 5 days, Li Bei and Qidong will be fighting a war on empty stomachs. This is a question of feeding hundreds of thousands of soldiers. We'll borrow from Huaizhou, Hezhou, and Cizhou, Han Liangyi said decisively. The debt from these loans shall be borne by the imperial court. This is an emergency. The state treasury can't withdraw so much money on short notice to purchase the grain outright, so we can only promise to exempt these 3 prefectures from taxes for the next 2 years. Bai Mazhou gathered all the grain reserves from the 13 cities into these 2 shipments of provisions. The 3 prefectures the Grand Secretary mentioned cannot compare to that. Not to mention, these 3 prefectures are distant from one another, scattered all across the empire. Preparing and coordinating the shipments alone will take several days. Tell Tang Jiu that Qidong's military provisions will be halved this year, Han Liangyi instructed. They have military fields to sustain them. They won't starve. Hezhou is right beside Qidong, but the grain from Cizhou and Huaizhou must be shipped out tonight. Although he was sick, he remained clear-headed. Heir Xiao was wounded. He oughtn't remain long at the front line. The Prince of Li Bei is ill and is similarly unable to lead. Chen Jun, draw up a list of our generals and hand it to me in an hour. Within 3 days, Chudu must deploy a capable officer to Li Bei to assume command. In minutes, Han Liangyi had taken charge of the situation and given the final word. It was clear Wei Huaigu wouldn't get away this time. Xiao Chuye didn't intend to let him off. The only reason he wasn't at his throat right now was that the deployment of a commanding general was far more important. Yet Wei Huaigu's behavior was peculiar. He knowed right where he was, as all the while the ministers were speaking and plans were being made, and said not one word in his own defense. All I have to say for this little scene break is thank God for Han Liangyi once again, but also I just remember Wei Huaigu trying to get himself out of trouble previously with all the Xi Hongxuan stuff. And now he has found himself in trouble from being conniving and all that stuff before. But why is he not trying to defend himself? I'm suspicious. But we go on. After retreating from the court, the officials gathered in Mingli Hall's brightly lit side room. Han Liangyi couldn't bear the cool nights, so Kong Qiu draped an overcoat over him. He gathered the folds of it around himself and gestured for everyone to take a seat. The impeachment memorial will be on the Grand Secretariat's desks tomorrow, Sun Yu said. How many times is this for the Wei clan? His Majesty is mindful about showing mercy. The incident with Wei Huaxiang over the assassination case didn't implicate Wei Huaigu, and Wei Huaigu never admitted fault for what happened with the public ditches either. But what about these military provisions? He can't escape punishment for negligence and dereliction of duty. One's duties as an official in the imperial court have nothing to do with one's family background and standing, said Han Liangyi. We must find fault with others on the basis of their surname. If a man makes a mistake, then impeach him. Han Liangyi had yet to drink a single drop of water that night, but he seemed tireless as he looked at Xiao Chuye. Heir Xiao has been leading the troops for several years. If he was able to fight his way out of the Hanma tribe's siege and return to Li Bei, his life is not in danger. Your lordship needn't be so anxious. Chudu will work through the night to get Li Bei anything it lacks. Xiao Chuye understood. To maintain the status quo amid the current tensions, Han Liangyi could never let Xiao Chuye return to Li Bei. There was no question of this. Xiao Jiming was defeated, but he wasn't dead. And even if Xiao Jiming died, Xiao Chuye still couldn't return home, because there was still Xiao Fengshu. Bruh. Okay. He sat facing an entire room of veteran ministers, yet Xiao Chuye was terribly calm. There are many decent generals in Chudu, but those who can adapt to the battlefields of Li Bei are few and far between. The eastern Hongyan Mountains border the desert, and we're nearing the hottest days of the year. The heat on the frontier is brutal. I'm afraid any officer born in the southwest will be unsuitable. He had reacted quickly to the situation. So quickly, he appeared unassailable. In the hall, he had preemptively laid out the case regarding the military provisions, and now he was telling Hailiang Yi that the new general deployed to Li Bei had to be someone from Li Bei or Qidong. He didn't want an armchair strategist who was all talk and no action. Hailiang Yi nodded approvingly at Xiao Chuye. At a moment like this, one should not be swayed by emotion or act impulsively for personal gain. That Li Bei lacked a commander was an indisputable fact. Skilled deputy generals like Zhao Hui were formidable, but they were all men whom Xiao Fengshu had personally taught. These deputies were meant to take on the tasks of coordinating and assisting a commander. They could lead a squadron of soldiers to outflank the enemy, but they couldn't convince their fellows that they were fit to lead all of Li Bei. Yet since the reign of Xiande, the Zhou Empire had faced a dearth of able generals. Of all 4 great generals, one was injured, and other than Zuo Qianqiu, the 2 remaining had their own important duties to attend to. The talents that emerged later were all high-ranking military officers from Qidong, core members of Tang Jiu Qing's army that she had trained from scratch. It was Qidong's military affairs they were familiar with. To lend any of them to Li Bei was easier said than done. Besides, the Qi clan was about to enter a marriage alliance with the Hua clan. If a general from Qidong took command in Li Bei, even temporarily, this would break the careful balance again and make it difficult for the emperor to hold Qidong in check. Who should be assigned? Even Hailiang Yi's head hurt thinking about it. As they sat burning with anxiety inside the hall, Fu Man hurried in from outside. "Your Excellencies, look who's here." Xiao Chuye turned his head and sprang to his feet. Who is it? The entire hall followed suit, rising one after another. Hailiang Yi stepped forward to welcome the new arrival personally. The man who garnered such respect peeled off his hooded overcoat, revealing white hair. Oh, he greeted Hailiang Yi, then looked at Xiao Chuye. This humble one raced through the night to reach Chudu and seek an audience with His Majesty regarding the crucial matter of Li Bei. There was a lump in Xiao Chuye's throat as he cried, "Shifu." I don't know why that got me just now, but it did. Oh, my heart. Okay. That really just, my heart. Okay. Zuo Tianqiu didn't stop to make conversation with him. Instead, he greeted Hailiang Yi with a smile. "It's been many years since I last saw the Grand Secretary. I hope you are still in good health." Hailiang Yi gripped Zuo Tianqiu's wrists. "As old as Commander Zuo may be, can you still serve your country?" Dang. Footnote number 4. This is adapted from Old as Lian Po is, Can He Still Eat? From Joy of Eternal Union, reminiscing the past at the Beigu Pavilion at Jinkou by Xin Qiji, a poet and military leader during the Southern Song Dynasty. Is it to the rescue? Yes. Zuo Tianqiu sighed. "Although my face has aged and my hair has grayed, I have yet the strength to draw a bow. There's no need for the Grand Secretary to worry. I came for 2 reasons. First, to stand in temporarily for Jiming and take command of the troops in Li Bei. And second, to deliver a message from Xiao Fengshu." The entire room listened with rapt attention. Something stirred in Zuo Tianqiu's eyes as he looked at Xiao Chuye. The might of the Prince of Li Bei has reverberated like a tiger's roar through the Hongyan Mountains for so many years. His son has suffered a loss, and as his old man, he wishes to personally reclaim victory from a Moor of the Hanma tribe. The rain thundered down. A gerfalcon let out a long cry as he swooped among the dark clouds of Chudu. At the farthest edge of the world, the banner of Li Bei flapped in the wind. In that rain like heavy ink, Xiao Fengshu, who hadn't set foot on the battlefield for decades, donned his armor and strapped on his blade to lead the troops into battle. The wind tore at Xiao Fengshu's cape, and he swept off his incongruous bamboo hat to look up at the sky. Amour. Xiao Fengshu's voice was deep. He raised his arm in the rain to release his Li Bei falcon and laughed into the wind. Li Bei has drawn a border in the east. Why are you trespassing? I told you decades ago. The Hongyan Mountains are the stumping ground of my Li Bei armored cavalry. His voice reverberated through the pelting rain. The armored cavalry behind him, cloaked under black armor, drew out their blades as one. In that moment of unified motion, their oppressive might called to mind a crouching behemoth suddenly opening its eyes. This is the second time we've had a behemoth mentioned. Was that behemoth crouching as well? Also, that's the end of the chapter, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that I don't like this already. I have bad feelings. Here I was like, yay, Shifu to the rescue. But now I'm scared because Daddy Xiao is going out there. Nothing better happened to this man. I only got a little taste of Daddy Xiao, okay? But Daddy Xiao is fine. It's like he loves his sons, okay? So like I cannot, T97, we're not doing this. If it's coming, we're not doing this. Is it okay if I just panic in advance? That way I can prepare myself. And so when it comes, it won't hurt as much. But then if it doesn't come, then I'll be just fine. And I'll be like, whew, that was a relief. I'm having a bit of anxiety. I really am. Which is hilarious because I noticed that one of the chapters for today was titled Anxiety. Is this why? Is this why? I'm nervous. Instead of biting me, I'm so nervous right now, and I don't know how to feel. QJJ does build a sense of doom very credibly. Unlike some books for sure. Yes, so I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not trusting this at all. I've got a major problem. And it is so easy to love all the characters, right? It is. It was so easy for me to fall in love with Xiao Fengshu. He ain't even do nothing for real except love his sons. And look really hot, ruggedly handsome man. Okay. Chapter 91. Li Bei. For some reason, I don't like this title. I don't like this title. Zuo Tianqiu had arrived in the nick of time, leaving no chance for Chudu to select a general of their own. Thunder on Jade Terraces, Zuo Tianqiu was known far and wide for his military achievements. He was the great general taught by Silver Spear of Snowy Pass, Feng Yisheng, and the senior of Xiao Jiming, Qi Juyin, and Lu Guangbai. It had been years since he had walked away from Tianfei Watchtower, and few had seen him since. He had no private troops. He was a child from a humble background who had been adopted by Ji Wufan, the chief commander of the embroidered uniform guard during the reign of Yongyi. He had no family background to create conflicts of interest. His willingness to come out of obscurity and lead the troops was something highly Yongyi couldn't have dared to hope for. As Zuo Tianqiu waited for Li Jianheng to summon him, he stood with Xiao Qiye under the eaves, watching the rain. I had to make haste, so I didn't bring any message for you. Zuo Tianqiu's overcoat was half soaked. He hadn't stopped once on the entire journey except to change horses. He spoke deliberately. Jiming has returned to the camp, and the military medics are taking good care of him. Don't worry. Don't worry. Right, okay. He was silent to the extent of Xiao Jiming's injuries. Xiao Qiye looked down. After a pause, he asked, how was he injured? Zuo Tianqiu gazed out into the rainy night. There are some words I will only say to you while standing here. Someone tampered with Jiming's food. They got Zhao Hui too. The squadron dragged their sick bodies to the battlefield and just happened to encounter Amur, the toughest of the lot. Jiming received 3 great gashes. It was Zhao Hui who tumbled off his horse and, with the 10 or so remaining soldiers, carried his general from the battlefield on his back and broke through the siege. Xiao Chuye clenched his fists. So did I. There was darkness in Zuo Qianqiu's eyes, but his voice remained level. Jiming has fought battles in the past while in ill health. After so many years pushing himself on the battlefield, he may seem fit on the surface, but in truth, he's plagued by old ailments. This time, he has badly damaged his constitution. We should see it as an opportunity. Let him recuperate for half a year and build his strength up again. Zuo Qianqiu had taught both brothers, and he couldn't be any clearer about their temperaments. Xiao Jiming was soft on the outside, but tough inside. And Xiao Chuye. Okay. Oh gosh, he is the opposite. He didn't inherit Xiao Fengshu's preternaturally strong and healthy physique, nor his father's uncompromising, hard-nosed approach. And whatever he lacked, Xiao Chuye possessed. Perhaps a lesser man would have been jealous, but Xiao Jiming cherished his family. He had inherited the compassion and benevolence of his mother, the princess consort of Li Bei. It was so ingrained in his nature that he had never harbored a single ill thought toward his younger brother. He saw himself as a sanctuary for the family and did all he could to heal his wounds himself. All these years, he had never uttered a cry of pain. Lu Guangbai had repeatedly said that he was only human. But though Xiao Jiming indeed had mortal desires, he had forced himself to become the indestructible guardian of Li Bei. This battlefield defeat had destroyed half of Xiao Jiming's lifetime of honor and glory. At this moment, Xiao Chuye abhorred his cage with every bone in his body. He chafed against his shackles, opening new wounds and old wounds, raw and bloody. His gaze followed the raindrops to the ground, where the pooling water bore the weight of his silent agony. He held himself together and said calmly, "The meals in the camps are all prepared by our own people. Daga eats the same food as the common soldiers. Harming him means harming thousands of men in the camp. We can't let this go. Whoever did this will pay with their lives. The mess cooks who prepared the food have already been executed." Zuo Qianqiu looked at Xiao Chuye. It was Jiming's idea. Good on Jiming. Kill him. No explanation needed. Just kill him. Yep. Li Bei had to bear such a grave trespass against them, yet they had reported it as a matter of military provisions adulterated with mold rather than a pointed attempt at murder. I hate the fact that that's how it had to be brought to them, but okay. Xiao Jiming had only broken out of the enemy siege after sustaining deep wounds. He'd hung onto consciousness long enough to give the order to execute these mess cooks, all to prevent an investigation into such a conspiracy. A deliberate attempt to kill him suggested a power struggle, and bringing that out into the open would only muddy the waters. It was too easy for Li Bei to be used as someone else's weapon. With Xiao Jiming incapacitated, appointing a new general would fall to Chudu. Even if Chudu investigated, who would guarantee that the person who put the poison in his bowl was the true murderer? Killing by proxy wasn't unheard of. Assuming the food tampering was just the first step in a larger plan, if Li Bei reported the attempt and the imperial court couldn't find the perpetrator, the noble clans, in their conniving attacks, might distort the facts and accuse Li Bei of using Xiao Jiming's injuries as a ploy to deceive the court and get Xiao Chuye back. You did well. You didn't tell them you wanted to return to Li Bei to rally the forces and avenge your brother. Zuo Qianqiu's expression was solemn. If you had spoken frankly and fought for command of Li Bei before the emperor, then their guilt tonight would have turned into defensive calculations. It would plant suspicion in His Majesty's mind and set the stage for future troubles. I expected the Grand Secretary wouldn't set me free. Xiao Jiming slowly pulled himself together. It's as Shifu says. Grasping at military power will only make His Majesty afraid of me, and I still have 20,000 men of the Imperial Army in my hands. That would be a major taboo. Making a scene right now will only delay aid to Li Bei. Shifu coming here has helped me out of my predicament. When I have my audience with His Majesty later, I'll discuss the issue of the military provisions with the Ministry of Revenue and Grand Secretary in detail. When I have an audience with His Majesty later, I'll discuss the issue of the military provisions with the Ministry of Revenue and Grand Secretary in detail. I need to head back at dawn tomorrow at the very latest. Your father has already declared war with a Moor at the edge of the eastern mountain range. He's launching a frontal assault as we speak. No matter what, we have to arrest their momentum. This wasn't an appropriate place to talk, so Zuo Tianqiu turned the conversation back to military affairs. It's been a long time since I last led troops. I'll have to familiarize myself with the situation once I get back to camp. The Libe armored cavalry strength lies in offensive strikes, while I specialized in defensive warfare back at Tianfei Watchtower. I need to discuss with your father properly. There's one more thing. Zhao Hui was also seriously injured in the battle. His only remaining family is his younger sister, who married in Chudu. Remember to send Cheng Yang to the Ministry of Rights later to let them know that all is well. Just as Fu Man came out to summon Zuo Tianqiu inside, Xiao Chiye nodded in acknowledgement. Zuo Tianqiu took one final look at him. You're alone in Chudu. Take care of yourself. Xiao Chiye made a formal disciple's bow, and Zuo Tianqiu strode forward, lifted the curtain, and vanished from sight. I'm concerned. Have I said that I'm concerned? All right. Fei Sheng had gotten his wish. These days, he was working by Jiang Qingshan's side. Something had gone wrong with Juexi's military provisions, and Jiang Qingshan, who still held the post of Provincial Administration Commissioner of Juexi, was summoned to Mingli Hall to discuss the matter. He was sure to be there for a few hours at least. Fei Sheng's old habits of laziness reared their head again. Hoping to rest for a moment in the office, he sent a junior eunuch to fetch him some food. He was sitting on the chair, waiting with one leg casually crossed over the other, when he heard a sound from the doorway. He looked up. When the candlelight revealed his guest to be Han Cheng, he scrambled up to pay his respects. Han Cheng, who had braved the rain to get there, motioned for him to rise. As Fei Sheng stepped forward to remove his superior's overcoat, Han Cheng asked, "Has His Majesty summoned anyone for a meeting?" Fei Sheng knew what he wanted to ask. He replied deferentially, "Marshal Zuo is here." Zuo Tianqiu? Taken aback, Han Cheng blinked. The Prince of Libe certainly lives up to his name. His reactions are so swift, he leaves no opening to exploit. No other candidate in Chudu can surpass Marshal Zuo. It seems the Libe armored cavalry is still the Libe armored cavalry after all. You damn Skopinski! Darn Skopinski it is! Let me turn the page. Grins. Anxiety. Pets Volume 3. Volume 3 is good at anxiety. Don't... no! And it's just crazy because this chapter is what? Like, how many pages are in this one? Over halfway through, and I haven't really felt anxiety until now. I felt some feelings, as far as like Jigong and Shifu missing and all that stuff, but anxiety, I didn't get that until now. So I have major problems. Fei Sheng concurred, but didn't pursue the topic. It has been building up, yes. This is true. All of those things had to happen to get to the moment of anxiety. Like, that's how it happens. Anxiety does, I guess technically it can just like boom, but it is an inclining thing. So yes, but I'm just like, So Fei Sheng concurred, but didn't pursue the topic. These were matters he'd best not involve himself in, and he preferred to stay as far away as he could. Yes, we know, Fei Sheng, this has been said about you before. Han Cheng saw straight through him. It was for exactly this reason he held Fei Sheng in contempt. These common sons born to concubines were all like this. No guts and no spirit. They eyed the carrot dangling before them all day long, but made no attempt to snatch it. Have a cookie of soothing? Let me just grab it off the screen really quickly. It's not working. This is a great scene. Okay. Outwardly, he show oh, that's so crazy though, because like Fei Shang holds Han Cheng in high regard based on previous chapters, but here it is. This man that you hold in high regard hasn't done for you. That's funny. Gotta love it. Outwardly, he showed Fei Shang an amiable countenance. Although this matter involves Jiang Qingshang's subordinates, it's not a job he personally handled. The higher-ups won't blame him for this. Working under him is a good move. It will open many doors for you, he said. He's set to head for Zhongbo next month. When the embroidered uniform guard travels there for work in the future, they'll be relying on you to pave the way. Xiao Shang, work hard and do your best. Fei Shang murmured his agreement and saw Han Cheng out. As he lowered his head to lift the hem of Han Cheng's robe across the threshold, he spotted a corner stained grayish black. He hurried to brush it away for Han Cheng and fawned on him, saying, "Did Your Excellency come over on foot? How—" Unexpectedly, Han Cheng yanked the corner of his robe away. Fei Shang's flattery promptly dried up. The heavy downpour outside cast Fei Shang's face into flickering darkness. The office fell so silent one could hear a pin drop. After a beat, Fei Shang raised his head and forced a smile, as if nothing had happened. "I've wiped off that bit of mud for you," he said obsequiously. "Your Excellency, please be careful on your way out." Han Cheng stared at him and slowly released his grip on his robe. He smiled back, and after a moment said, "You may go about your business." The moment Han Cheng had gone, Fei Shang's face turned icy. Under the candlelight, he lifted his hand and looked carefully at what remained of the mud on his fingertips. There was wood ash mixed in, which the rainwater had turned into sludge. It was hard to make out the color, but he caught a hint of red. The Xi manor had burned down. Fei Shang had been all over it for Shan Zichuan's missing men, and he remembered. The dye used in the estate was a red clay imported from overseas, very valuable and difficult to obtain. Not even a manor belonging to a prince or the other nobility could match the Xi clan for money and resources. Other than them, no one else in Chudu would use it. What was Han Cheng doing at the Xi manor on a night like this? Fei Shang wiped away the mud on his fingers. The cold sweat that had broken out on his back when his eyes met Han Cheng's had yet to dry. He watched the candle flicker. His mind was awhirl. But he was sure of one thing. Within that brief exchange, Han Cheng had already decided to kill him. All right. I actually don't have anything to say. Damn. I'm gonna keep reading. Oh man. He said it is one of my favorite exchanges in the whole series. Dang. Oh man. Let's keep reading. I'm all right, Fei Shang. Let's. Shan Zichuan, where are you? Okay, let's keep going. The next day, Zuo Qianqiu mounted his horse again to ride for Li Bei. Xiao Chuye accompanied Tai Liang Yi to see him out of the city. He couldn't return home, but he could at least send Chen Yang and Gu Jin out. They would follow the grain distribution officials to Huaizhou and Suzhou to supervise the preparation of the military provisions. Nothing could go wrong with the shipment this time. Xiao Chuye couldn't trust the men from the 6 ministries, but he had planted Wang Xian in Suzhou long ago, and had also convinced Pan Lin to send Liang Cuishan to Huaizhou. With these men as his eyes on the ground, he wouldn't miss a single detail. I agree, because Liang Cuishan, he's good at his job. Let's go. And he's good as a person. I hope, at least for now. Xiao Chuye hadn't slept all night. He wiped sweat from his face with a cold handkerchief and climbed into his carriage. "When Liang Cuishan returns," he said, "I'll have to thank him properly." Shan Zichuan was waiting inside. "Hey, I said, Shan Zichuan, where are you?" And here he goes. He hadn't slept last night either. having stood guard at Mingley Hall throughout all the discussions. I've already made arrangements to settle his family in a manor in Huaizhou. Someone will be on night patrol to watch over them, so he can focus on his job with peace of mind. Unlike Suzhou, the officials in Huaizhou have no dealings with us, and now we're asking them to prepare military provisions on such short notice. The Huaizhou prefect can't be pleased. Huaizhou has been exempted from providing military provisions for 8 years. Hai Liangyi named them because they can afford this. Xiao Zhiye covered his eyes with his handkerchief and slouched back in his seat. After a moment, he continued. Wei Huaigu must be arrested today. We can't let the Ministry of Justice get to him first. They were friendly with the Minister of Justice, Kong Qiu, and had spent a pleasant evening drinking together previously. This bit of friendship, however, couldn't compare to the influence of Hai Liangyi. Xiao Zhiye had already given up the idea of playing by their rules. If he wanted to cut off any path of retreat for Wei Huaigu, this case had to bypass the joint trial by the three judicial offices and land in the hands of the embroidered uniform guard, in Shen Zichuan's hands. Wei Huaigu. Shen Zichuan fiddled with the authority token he had set on the little table and considered this solemnly for a moment. He'd already intercepted the express relay report. He didn't want it to reach the emperor, yet he changed his mind at the last minute. Why? Xiao Zhiye recalled the sight of Wei Huaigu kneeling in Mingley Hall last night. Actually, he was acting strange. Knowing him, he should be trying to pass the buck or pick up some scapegoat from the Ministry of Revenue to take the blame. But not only did he not try to wiggle his way out, he even answered obediently. Shen Zichuan set the token back down with a sharp click. Bai Mazhou had a bumper harvest last year. If the military provisions have been adulterated with old and substandard grain, where did all the fresh grain go? Xiao Zhiye pulled the handkerchief off his face and clutched it in his hands. Greed is a motive for injury. If this grain set out from Bai Mazhou via Hezhou's waterways, it could bypass Chudu and head directly into Zhongbo, where they can slap a merchant's label on it and sell it at a high price as food for the common folk. The rumors that Jiang Qingshan was going to Zhongbo to assume the position of its Provincial Administration Commission were going around before the new year. If someone took advantage of this, then it's clear what's going on. Shen Zichuan looked up to meet Xiao Zhiye's eyes. Someone in the Provincial Administration Commission of Jueshi has been colluding with merchants to resell military grain at a profit. In past years, Jiang Qingshan oversaw the entire operation and strictly checked the provisions, so they carried out this operation on a small scale. But this year, Jiang Qingshan is due to be transferred out of Jueshi. He entered the capital after the new year to report for duty and has remained here undergoing the judicial process of vetting and waiting for a review. Without him supervising Jueshi's preparation of the military provisions, he left an opening for them to exploit. It's just that no one expected them to be so audacious as to swap the provisions with moldy grain. There can't be many with the capacity to move so much grain. The look in Xiao Zhiye's eyes was deep and unfathomable. No one could touch this transaction without a caravan of traveling merchants to handle the goods. Xi Hongxuan, Shen Zichuan said slowly. Xi Hongxuan. Xiao Zhiye said the same name with certainty. He died not because of you or me, but because he'd already become a sacrificial pawn, too capable of implicating others with what he knew. Wei Huaigu tried every means possible to shove the blame in the Ohua Pavilion case onto Xi Hongxuan. Was it because the two of them were already privately reselling military provisions for a profit? Wei Huaigu was worried Xi Hongxuan would be subjected to a thorough investigation, so he wanted him dead. Eyes, my neighbors. I was really trying not to, do my usual thing when I hear them tumbling and doing gymnastics above me, but since you mentioned them, scram! I'm gonna start saying scram all the time now because of you. Shen Zichuan contemplated this. It makes sense. Xi Hongxuan said before that Wei Huaigu was too money-minded. Why did he agree to Wei Huaigu's demands so quickly? He knew Wei Huaigu well and easily assumed he would blackmail him. But if that's the case, with Xi Hongxuan dead, Wei Huaigu had no need to take the significant risk of continuing their operation. I suspect Wei Huaigu isn't responsible this time. Someone knew about the earlier deals and held it over him as leverage. He must have known as soon as he saw the relay report that he'd been set up. There's no escape for him now, and considering that he didn't attempt to exonerate himself, I'd say it's very likely he knows who the other party is. He's trying to imitate Hua Ziqian now, using his own life to prevent the Wei clan from falling further. Listening to the drumming of the rain outside as they unraveled the deceptions and schemes, Xiao Chuye felt exhaustion wash over him. Xiao Jiming had done what was necessary. Li Bei's timely execution of the mess cooks had prevented Li Bei from becoming a pawn others used to eradicate descendants. No, maybe they weren't just pawns. The perpetrators wanted to use Xiao Jiming's defeat to reduce Li Bei's military power. They wanted to break up the Li Bei armored cavalry, which had ever been in the hands of the Xiao clan, and hand it over to Chudu to command and control. Even if they couldn't topple Li Bei entirely, this could put them under Chudu's supervision, thereby holding the Xiao clan in check. If Commander Zuo hadn't arrived in time last night, there, in the cramped carriage, Shan Zichuan held Xiao Chuye's hand and looked at him. Then Chudu would have appointed a new general by the morning, and the Li Bei armored cavalry would no longer be the Li Bei armored cavalry. Xiao Chuye's fingers were ice cold. After a moment, he lifted his hand to stroke Shan Zichuan's hair. "The Li Bei armored cavalry is the army of our great Zhou," he rasped. "Father built it with his own hands. It's far more important than my brother and me. All these many years, Chudu has never understood us. We are the impenetrable fortress in Li Bei, not traitors." See? I'm just going to highlight that real quickly because, I mean, it's nothing significant, but like this is always the problem. We are the impenetrable fortress in Li Bei, not traitors. Stop coming for us, okay? Stop fearing the powers that be, that could be, if we decided to revolt or take power. Like, treat us well, and we will continue to treat you well. I mean, shoot, you're treating us like shit, and we're still treating you well. We're still fighting for you. I'm wondering if this chapter will have us, like, when do we go to Li Bei? Do we journey into Li Bei ourselves? Like, do we get a chapter on the battlefield? I'm just curious. I guess we'll see soon. Chapter 92, Anxiety. The sky was dark by the time the rain stopped, only a few thin rays of light piercing the thick clouds. The coming and going of black boots kicked up fallen water, sending drops splashing across puddles that reflected the fractured dome of heaven. It was the beginning of summer, yet Chudu seemed still stuck in the rainy season. It had been days since the capital last saw clear skies. Hai Liangyi, finally given a minute for himself, sat on a wooden chair drinking strong tea. He was old, and it was hard to keep his spirits up. He was already feeling fatigued, but there were officials bustling around him attending to their duties, and documents exchanging hands that required his perusal and approval. He was not at liberty to rest. Really quick, but like, I hope that there would be somebody great that could replace Hai Liangyi at some point, you know, because they keep talking about how he's old and stuff like that. And I'm just like, you know, when Hai Liangyi goes, he goes. And we want someone just as good as him in his position when he goes. Anyway. Secretariat Elder. Kong Qiu left the cases on his desk long enough to take a chair below Hai Liangyi and said respectfully, "We must hold the Ministry of Revenue responsible for the disaster with the military provisions. This pupil submitted a request to His Majesty yesterday for a joint trial conducted by the 3 judicial offices. This matter can't be delayed. Perhaps this pupil should make the arrests tonight." Hai Liangyi was slow to answer, brushing the tea foam in his cup aside. He looked out the window, And only after a long time had passed did he say, "Sitting for so long has made me tired. His Majesty is still having his meal. Come with me for a walk outside." Kong Qiu took Hai Liangyi's overcoat from a junior eunuch and draped it over the older man's shoulders. The two walked together out of the office. The light outside had faded. Lantern in hand, Kong Qiu followed Hai Liangyi along the paths of the small garden within the Secretariat compound. "You want to arrest Wei Huaigu, and there's nothing wrong with that." Surprisingly, bathing in the night wind made Hai Liangyi more comfortable. He took a few more deliberate steps. "This incident concerns the stability of the frontier. Certainly, you mustn't be too lenient with Wei Huaigu. Handle it by the book." Kong Qiu lit the way for him. He guessed Hai Liangyi still had something to say. Dropping into more familiar tones, he said, "I shall do as teacher says. This pupil thinks the same. He was unbelievably brazen this time. Even if the Empress Dowager wishes to shield him, it'll do no good. This pupil has seen how he acted increasingly out of line this year. Someone should have checked him a long time ago. Military affairs are not like other governmental business. Malfeasance on this scale must never be tolerated or condoned. That the Prince of Libei has donned his armor to ride onto the battlefield once again is an admonition to Chudu." Hai Liangyi stopped and stood in silence for a long while. Night was falling, and he could no longer see the glow between the sky and the earth. Xiao Fengshu is the king wolf. In all these years of the power struggle between Libei and the Hua clan, he has stayed behind the lines due to ill health. He has watched as Xiao Jiming exhausted himself, and Xiao Jie remained trapped in the imperial city. Good, so you know he's trapped too. You put it out there. He placed both his sons in dangerous circumstances. Why do you think he did this? Affected by Hai Liangyi's tone, Kong Qiu's heart grew heavy. Concessions. The Prince of Libei's making concessions to Chudu via his sons. The long-standing noble clans have established themselves as a fortress in the capital, and he has bucked their rule from the frontier. Perhaps he once had the opportunity to advance, but he retreated. Yet the Empress Dowager didn't understand. Physically and mentally drained, Hai Liangyi continued. The Empress Dowager didn't understand, and neither did Wei Huaigu or the noble clans. Xiao Fengshu broke through their antiquated hegemony. His retreat was not out of fear, but because he was willing to accept the sovereign-subject relationship between our Zhou Empire and Libei. But as they say, that which waxes will wane. Chasing after the Xiao clan like this to beat them down is as good as daring Xiao Fengshu to retaliate. Yeah. Power struggles have always been unavoidable, but when they start encroaching on our defenses, it's an ominous sign that prelude collapse. Indeed, Zhongbo fell during the reign of Xiande. Back then, the imperial court was crawling with corrupt officials who disregarded governance and made a mess of our court. We may try these days to pick up the pieces, but we face trouble within and without. Hai Liangyi coughed in the cool wind, but refused Kong Qiu's attempt to take his arm. It's only this year that the state treasury has recovered sufficiently to bear the expenses for regional aid. Jueshi did well in providing the military provisions for the two major armies. With Libei and the Bianjuan commandery stable at our borders, and with a capable minister like Jiang Qingshan soon to be transferred to Zhongbo, there's hope for Zhongbo's revival. The Imperial College is growing, and counts more and more scholars from common households among its numbers. The Chief Surveillance Bureau has Tang Jiu to lead it, and of the up-and-coming talents, Yu Xiaocai is particularly promising. His Majesty is also no longer distracted by vice and indulgence. Sorrow washed over Hai Liangyi. I have recently thought that a new dawn was beginning in our great Zhou. Yet I now find increasingly that though my spirit is willing, my flesh is weak. I'm highlighting that. It's been a while since I've heard that. But oof. Alarmed, Kong Qiu grasped Hai Liangyi by the arm to support him, the rims of his eyes reddening. Why does teacher speak such demoralizing words? The Prince of Libei is not that kind of person. This pupil will preside over the trial personally. I will not let Libei suffer this injustice. There's still a chance to turn the tide. But Hai Liangyi seemed to sag in his grip. How far could his emaciated body walk while holding up the Zhou Empire. He was just one man. He couldn't save the situation on his own. No more than a single log could prop up an entire palace. He couldn't act recklessly and unscrupulously like the noble clans, nor could he put complete faith in Li Bei. He was the Grand Secretary of the Grand Secretariat, and the palace he supported was Li Jianheng. He was the fulcrum that must maintain the balance in any given situation. Even if the decision he made led to his complete annihilation, he still must make it. Li Bei's fury has been ignited. Xiao Fengxue is leading his troops to the eastern side of the Hongyan mountain range, but once the Biansha threat subsides, he will no doubt turn back to settle the score with Chudu. Hai Liangyi paused for a moment amid a bout of coughing. No matter how he rages when the time comes, we mustn't release Xiao Chiye, even if Li Bei is willing to exchange the heir consort, Lu Yizhi, and grandson heir, Xiao Xun, for him. The Prince of Li Bei placed both his sons in dangerous situations with the intent to strengthen them, precisely for this day. Xiao Jiming is severely wounded. This is the perfect time for him to lie low. Xiao Chiye made a name for himself in his youth, and Xiao Fengxue let him remain a hostage in Chudu for 6 years to temper him into steel. Now that this blade is forged and his name is known, allowing his return will sow the seeds of future disaster. We'd be releasing a tiger back into the mountain. I'm an old man, Borjan. I can't hold out much longer. We must treat Li Bei with respect, but we cannot release the rope we tether with them with. Many will lambast me after I die for being age-fogged and muddle-headed. But Borjan, who dare say to my face that Li Bei will never rebel? That Qidong will never rebel? These are great questions. Even if the Xiao Fengxue of today can endure it, can the Xiao Chiye of tomorrow tolerate it when he is commander in Li Bei? This is not a risk our great Zhou can afford to take. I will shoulder responsibility for deciding what justice Li Bei should have. They will all get their due. Wei Huaigu had the audacity to resell military provisions for profit. Go ahead and behead him in accordance with the law. I will remonstrate and impeach whomever pleads for mercy. Okay. Kong Qiu murmured his acknowledgement. Hai Liangyi paused to brace himself before he continued. I will send a letter to the Prince of Li Bei assuring him that there will be no military inspector. The imperial court will not assign a eunuch to stir up trouble. All major and minor military affairs in Li Bei will continue to be managed by the Prince of Li Bei himself. Kong Qiu hesitated. I'm afraid the Empress Dowager won't agree. Is there no emperor in our great Zhou? It's been the rule for 100 years that the harem should not interfere with government affairs. This matter is not up to her to decide. Besides, fighting a war is a serious business. What's the use of sending a few castrated bureaucrats who know nothing but how to fawn over others? They're a waste of rations. Hai Liangyi took a few more steps and continued. The eunuchs are all personal attendants to the Son of Heaven. There's a reason the 24 yamen are called the inner court. They've long resided deep in the palace, and neither understand the suffering of the common folk nor the ways of the sages. Pandru Gui attended the eunuch school, but everything he did was to frame loyal, upright men and undermine the state. A wise man foresees risks and mitigates them. The eunuch faction has just been eliminated. We mustn't hand them power again so readily. I'll have Chen Jun draft the memorial when we return, submitted to His Majesty tonight. Fu Man had come looking for them with a lantern in hand. He didn't dare encroach on their conversation and merely made his obeisance solemnly from afar. Secretariat Elder and Minister Kong, this way, please. You've been summoned to the hall. Hai Liangyi grunted. He didn't look kindly upon Fu Man either. Kong Qiu supported Hai Liangyi by the arm as they returned along the path. Only when he was right beside the Grand Secretary like this did he realize just how thin the man had become. Grief stabbed at his heart, although his expression betrayed nothing in the twilit darkness. Okay, that scene has ended, and I'm gonna need this to stop because we're talking a lot. I already said something in the beginning of this chapter, just saying it to say it, that I hope we'll have someone good to replace Hai Liangyi for when that time comes. I don't like how many times Hai Liang Yi has been like, I'm old. I don't like how many times he has coughed, or how he has said that though my spirit is willing, my body is weak. And Kong Chu is looking at him like, oh my gosh, she's so small and so sickly, and my heart is, clenching. Is he gonna die soon? Like, is this what we're doing? Is this the anxiety? Because I thought the anxiety was coming from how to handle the situation in Li Bei, which could still be a thing. But like, so far, the only anxiety that I have had is in relation to Hai Liang Yi. So like, what are we doing? Got me all anxious and everything. Also, I'm just gonna take like a quick break for like maybe 5 minutes, maybe, to just like, I don't know, slap some water on my face. You've no idea. I just need a quick break because I don't know, I guess I'm sleepy, but I'm just making too many mistakes, and I'm just like, oh, okay, let me just and then get myself back together. So Xiao Chuye tidied his robes and crown and entered Mingli Hall once again. This time, he spotted Xue Xiu Zhuo in his place at the end of the hall. Okay. Having smoked his pipe outside to steady himself, Sun Yu made his argument. This case involving the military provisions is of grave importance. It involves collusion between officials of our great court and merchants for illegal gains. What kind of example is this for the local officials? If we do not deal with it promptly and severely, those scum will think they can get away with it and never have any regard for the law. Although, after an impatient breath, he continued, Your Majesty, I request we start the investigation and prosecution tonight. We must apprehend Wei Huaigu, commit him to prison, and send someone to keep an eye on the Wei clan's account books and manners. We can't let them take advantage of the chaos to transfer their ill-gotten gains who knows where. Li Jianheng had also been without rest for a day and a night, and now he was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open. He nodded with some difficulty. The military provisions are indeed a major issue. Wei Huaigu has made a mess of matters. Whether he should be executed or have his property seized, it is for the Grand Secretariat to decide. Deal with him as you deem fit. The reach of this case is such that even Jiang Qingshan will have to remain in his post pending the trial. Xiao Chuye spoke next. The Wei clan is large, with land and power strewn all over the empire. I'm afraid any investigation of their dealings can't be done in under a fortnight if the Ministry of Justice acts alone. Xiao Chuye rubbed at the webbing between his thumb and index finger, slowly rotating his thumb ring. Likewise, the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices regarding the epidemic case is still pending. If we are to nip any similar cases of official merchant collusion elsewhere in the bud, the Chief Surveillance Bureau will also need to free up personnel to leave the capital and check the accounts of the various outer regions. It seems to me that every office has its own difficulties and is similarly short on manpower. Your lordship has a point, Xue Xiu Zhuo concurred softly. But everything has its priority. Li Bei is fighting a war as we speak. The matter of military provisions is of utmost importance. The Ministry of Justice and the Chief Surveillance Bureau naturally must put this matter first. There's no question. That blockhead Li Jianheng, oh my God, that's how we're starting? That blockhead Li Jianheng could tell Xiao Chuye was trying to hint at something to him. Why we gotta call him a blockhead? Dag. But after Xue Xiu Zhuo's interruption, he didn't know how to continue. Anxious, there's that word, he looked to Hai Liang Yi. What does the Secretariat Elder say? Hai Liang Yi didn't look at any of them. After a moment's pause, he said, Is your lordship worried that the joint trial made by the 3 judicial offices will take too long? The processes of the joint trial are complex, Xiao Chuye explained. Wei Huaigu has been at the top for too long. His thinking and methods are far detached from those of the common man. Who knows what he may try? I worry that detaining him for the considerable length of trial will cause further complications. That's right, Li Jianheng hastily cut in, so that nobody else could say so. He's like, yep, I concur. The Wei clan has always shown filial respect to the Empress Dowager. If this case drags on too long, We fear the Empress Dowager will be overwhelmed with worry and her health will suffer. But without the joint trial by the 3 judicial offices, we can't thoroughly investigate the various loose ends under him, Kong Qiu countered. These profiteers are only so audacious because they've had Wei Huaigu to shield them. Letting them all run free would be a disaster. I'm not saying we shouldn't investigate. I'm merely worried about the time it will take. Xiao Chuye looked at Li Jianheng. Surely, this is not the only course for Chudu to take. He's like, catch the hint, my guy. Something seemed to click in Li Jianheng's mind, and he slapped his thigh in understanding. If we want this investigation done quickly, we should let the embroidered uniform guard handle it. Shan Zichuan was pretty fast when he handled the matter of Xinhong Xuan and those bandits he assembled, no? Why not put him in charge of this too? But this is such a major case, Xue Xiuzhuo objected. It simply won't do to hand it over to the vice commander of the embroidered uniform guard. Shan Zichuan is limited by his rank. It'd be more appropriate to hand it to the chief commander, Han Cheng. Xiao Chuye shifted his gaze to Xue Xiuzhuo and hooked his lips into a smile. You're right. Shan Zichuan is not suitable to take charge of this case. He's young and lacks experience, and he has a long-standing grudge against me. I won't sleep easy if we hand it over to him. His quick retreat from his position convinced Hai Liangyi of this course. Exactly. He's like, oh yeah. There was a chance Xiao Chuye might use this connection to push Han Cheng too far in his handling of the case. It would be more balanced to hand the responsibility over to the man who had been always at odds with Xiao Chuye. Shan Zichuan. I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't stop laughing. All of y'all are being fooled. Oh gosh. Those poor, everybody's being so fooled. With the two of them standing in opposition and monitoring one another, neither would be able to tamper with the case. Your lordship, Hai Liangyi began, this is your prejudice speaking. Shan Zichuan is young indeed, but it was by imperial decree that he was promoted to his current position, where he's dealt with one difficult case after another. Letting him gain more experience is also a good thing. He turned to Li Jianheng. Appointing the embroidered uniform guard to take the lead as the chief investigators of this case means it will be handled by the imperial prison. And it just so happens that Shan Zichuan is the northern judge. Given his official duties and job responsibilities, that he should handle this case is reasonable. Even so, we mustn't insist on reckless speed. Although we are bypassing joint trial, the 3 judicial offices still should supervise. Does your majesty agree? Li Jianheng knew Hai Liangyi was making a concession by doing this. Not daring to appear overly partial toward Xiao Chuye, he instantly concurred. We'll issue the edict right away. He can start the investigation tonight. He sure can. Oh yeah, he hates me. He'd be a horrible fit. Oh no, not him. Must not be him. like y'all don't even know. Y'all don't even know. Anyway, last page and a half. With this, 2 consecutive days of official discussions in Mingli Hall finally reached a momentary conclusion. Everyone would return home and rest for a night. As they exited the hall, Li Jianheng personally instructed the eunuchs to carry Hai Liangyi in a sedan to the palace gates where his carriage waited, while Kong Qiu and the rest walked out after him. Xiao Chuye nodded farewell to them and left alone. Watching Xiao Chuye's retreating back, Kong Qiu sighed. He's too upset to trust the Ministry of Justice with this case. He wants to investigate with Han Cheng. Cun Yu descended the steps. And why wouldn't he? Just look at who Han Cheng is. The Secretariat Elder was right to choose Shan Zichuan. Yanqing, are you heading straight back to your residence? Xue Xiuzhuo walked a few steps behind them, a smile on his face. Yes, I've been sleeping in the office these last 2 days. I should go back tonight and prepare. There are still other cases to handle in days to come. Cun Yu was the type to look after his juniors and often supported their careers. He had personally guided Yu Xiaocai of the Chief Surveillance Bureau, whose career had blossomed under his mentorship. He had also occasionally given Shan Zichuan advice out of genuine concern. I do remember this. He valued Xue Xiuzhuo's talents as well, so when he heard these words, he found it only natural to speak a few words of encouragement. The three men stepped into their carriages at the palace entrance and went their separate ways. It was deep in the night when a steward of the Xue manor heard a knock at the door. He threw on his clothes and came out for a look. Standing at the threshold was a solemn-looking contingent of the embroidered uniform guard, sabers at their waist. Before the startled man could ask any questions, Qiao Tianya, in the lead, leisurely pushed the man aside and squeezed his way through the door. Have you eaten? It's so early. You probably haven't yet. Go tell the kitchen to prepare meals for the embroidered uniform guard, too. And while you're at it, wake everyone up. We're here to search the estate. Lifting his lantern high, the steward stepped forward to block his path. Your Excellency, how can you do this? You haven't produced any search warrant. Any who obstruct official business will be arrested and taken to the imperial prison. Shan Zichuan stood at the entrance, his eyes cold and ruthless. Tell Xue Xiuzhuo I'm looking for him. And that is the end of the chapter, which I'm kind of really upset about because now I want to read the next chapter, but I am incapable of doing so. Okay, they got it. Bet. I love it. Okay. So, glad that everything worked out. Not you laughing at me. Why are you constantly taunting me? You're a bad friend. You're a great friend. Bad friend. So, I'm glad that things worked out as far as getting this case over to the embroidered uniform guard. And I'm excited to see how that goes. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say, because I already said how I feel about everything concerning Hai Liangyi. But also, I just love this like ding, 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 eye contact, or just this friend communication without saying specific things that was happening between Li Jianhong and Xiao Chiye. So even with all of the crap that they've been experiencing with each other and the ups and downs of I don't trust you, I'm afraid of you, or I'm hiding this from you, hiding that from you, I still appreciate the fact that there's still some semblance of relationship there, like brotherhood or something, because it's a difficult thing to navigate, but that doesn't mean that it can't be navigated. And even if things can never get to the point of where their friendship used to be, I would really like for their friendship to be sustained in this series. I really would, because it's so rare that you hear about an emperor having a friend. Usually they're just very trusting of someone, their most trusted aide, but it's literally their aide. These two started as friends, and then they turned into, emperor and subject. So I'm glad we got to see that little moment between them. Like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying, sure, yeah. I see it, Su'an, because he calls him Su'an. And I'm hoping it remains. If something happens, I'm gonna go find T97. Bros at heart. Exactly. Oops, I missed a couple of your comments. You said, but from here on, it will be difficult to stop for several chapters. Ooh, how can it end like that? I don't know. Like, because we've been wanting to get our Qigong and Qi Huilian back. We've been wanting our Shifu and Xianshang forever. And it looks like we're so close. And remember in the last recording, I think I was like, oh, are we going to get them in these chapters? We didn't. And we didn't get them in yesterday's chapters. And then we didn't get them in these chapters, but they've been hinted at. I miss Shifu and Xianshang. Let's bring them back. And you end with us potentially bringing them back. What am I supposed to do? Bruh. You might want to lump several next chapters together. Well, I am, because I'm reading for Monday, so it'll at least be 4 chapters. I don't know if I'll go past that. I try not to put too many chapters in one thing when it comes to QJJ, just because it's been a lot. Actually, I'll say, as far as the politics are concerned, even though they're clearly very present and heavy in volume three, I think this volume has been the easiest to understand the politics. And I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I haven't necessarily had to explain as much because it was just really clear cut and dry. So I don't know, maybe I can do more, but with the extensive note taking that I do, it takes about 2 hours just to read four chapters, which it normally doesn't take me that long. So I'm like, if I add on top of that, it's gonna be, it's, woof, woof, okay. Oops. You said I should dig out the book and figure out for you. If you want to do that, by all means, you can, and just send me a message in Discord. But if not, that's also fine. Like, I'll be okay if you don't. We just ended chapter 92, Anxiety, and we're starting up on chapter 93, General. So, I'm going to tell y'all how this chapter made me feel really quickly. Oh, end of 96. Y'all look like my screaming goat. This is how anxiety made me feel. We need a rescue, don't we? You said, that's long, but trust me, the story is crescendoing. It will be hard to stop. Well, it might be hard to stop, but it'll be easy to stop when my when my energy wanes while recording, and I'll have no choice. My body will be like, yeah, you have to stop. As much as my brain might be like, I want to continue. Volume one did a great, it did such a great setup. I genuinely appreciate the mastery that was volume one. That's why I said, even though I loved volume two, volume one was my favorite for the month of January, because how could it not be? How could it not be? You said, trust me, I'll be flying through these. We'll see. The web has been laid, so it's easier to see what's happening for sure. Yeah. And that's the crazy part too, because I think I saw someone's, no, it was a video, but someone had commented before about binging QJJ, and everybody was like, I wouldn't recommend you do that. No, it's not bingeable. Like, you gotta pace yourself, blah, blah, blah. And I only saw one comment of someone who was like, no, maybe the first two volumes you want to pace yourself. But they were like, after that, you could binge away. And so I was like, interesting. I guess we'll see. If I have an easier time understanding everything without having to break it down, if we all do, because that would make life a lot easier. Because I'm telling y'all, like, the extensive note taking for QJJ on top of the note taking for Salted Fish is a lot. It's a lot, man. Oh, gosh. You said, me already did. Don't flip into the future. Art is going to spoil you. I've already seen the art for volume 3. And I know that someone had recommended me to not, I think maybe it was Story Jumper, to not look at the images in volume 3. I had already looked like forever ago. And when I say forever ago, I mean even before I started reading volume 3. So I've already seen them. They're not a spoiler for me. But I also didn't linger on them. I think, like, I just looked, was like, whoop, 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 whoop. So I did see one picture that I won't name that I was just like, T97, I see you. But yeah, I already looked through the art in volume 3. Which is why I didn't say it at the moment in the comments, but that's why I told Story Jumper, I'll look if I darn well please, LOL. Because I already did. It was just a while ago. So I don't even remember necessarily exactly what I saw. It didn't look good, but it didn't look good at all. Not the goat. Yes. Y'all know I haven't pulled it out in a while, but I got my sad violin, my sad tiny violin. But yes, I had to get the screaming goat. And I was like, gosh, I haven't used this. And I feel like I had plenty of opportunities to. So, like, I was like, yeah, I'm pulling it out today. And look, it was needed. So, I'm telling you to read to chapter 97, Sans Stop, for your sake as well as ours. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. Chapter 93 through 97. What's gonna happen? Don't tell me, but what's gonna happen? Am I not gonna like I'm not gonna like it. I'm not gonna like it, am I? I'm not gonna like it. But this bit of the story, like, truly will avalanche under you. And it's a natural break in web novel. I think chapter 96, 97. I'll be able to see as I read 96 and 97. Ah! I am highly nervous. I am highly youngy nervous. highly young. Okay, that was awful. Anyway, that is it. Thank you for joining me. This was our live stream for just the head disciple tiers. So I know we got a much smaller bunch compared to when it's everybody. But I thank y'all for being here, for sticking it out with me. I mean, Art, you saw Art at the end. That's for the better. Don't do that. I haven't. I'm not looking ahead on images. I mean, normally like, I do look, just like in general, for the series that I'm reading. Like, I don't mind just looking at the photos to see what happened inside of the book without the context of what's happening. And then I just go back. Because sometimes I also like pre-mark the images. But yeah, I haven't been doing it for this series. I've just been getting there as I get there. But I hope y'all have a lovely, yes, you have a lovely day as well. Probably gonna go take a nap because I clearly need one. 6 hours of sleep was not long enough, and I did not voluntarily wake up early. My body made me. So I'll see y'all on Monday, hopefully, when we cover chapters 21 through 25 of Salted Fish. And that's it. Well, I need a nap. What are you, my mother? Oh, how's I'm feeling, by the way? Healing okay? Oh, so like, I'm doing really well. Like, really, really well. So I, for the most part, every day have been pain free. Like, the aches that I felt pre-surgery, completely gone, except like yesterday I felt them a little bit at night, and they come very sparingly, but I've been able to move around and do things without a care in the world. My only issue has been when it comes time to cook. And being in the kitchen for so long seems to spur that pain, like there and in my back. And then I'm like, okay, I've been standing here for too long, so I need to sit down. And then the only other issue that I've been having, which I definitely know it's from the healing process because I didn't have this pre-surgery, is feeling like a beast is on one side of my stomach and then is like pulling that side of the stomach over to the other side. And it's just like this heavy, hard, dull pain that kind of debilitates me for a moment. And I'm like, when it hits, like, oh my God. And then it just goes away. I'm like, what is this? Are my muscles are the muscles muscling? What are we doing? I don't know what that's about. Definitely going to talk to my doctor about it because I have another follow up next week on. Oh, 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 wait, no, no, no. Everything's still fine. No, no, it is not fine. Oh, wait, 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 wait. No, we're fine. I skipped ahead a week. We're still fine. I don't have my doctor's appointment yet. I almost spazzed for a moment. Spaz will not ensue, okay? We're still meeting on Monday. Yes. Okay. But yeah, that's the only thing. Other than that, the healing has been going well. This arm is, I think it's basically back to normal. Sometimes I still feel pain after too much typing, and I'm like, okay, I've got my arm heater, but I haven't had to use it that much. Although I do still use it while I'm working, just, to help the healing process. But yeah, I'm starting to feel a lot more like myself. And I'm really happy about it because I just want my life back, and I feel like I'm getting it back. So yeah, I'm trying not to cry. But yeah, that's it. I don't even know if the explanation that I'm providing is like adequate enough to express how it feels. It feels like there's a whole city being rooted out of the concrete and going across my stomach. I'm gonna figure out how to word this to her. Okay. But yeah, thank you for asking because I sure haven't given like any updates or anything recently. So now that I have given that update, I'm officially going to take a nap or eat, or maybe take a nap and then eat. But I don't like to eat and then take a nap. So we'll have to figure it out. And hydrate. Yes. Yes, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go do that.